A very important thing to understand here is that this push pull dynamic is not specific to either gender. It could be enacted by both men and women. And people with insecure attachment styles, such as anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, are far more likely to enact these kinds of push pull relational dynamics. And this behavior often stems, as I mentioned earlier, from early childhood trauma, fear of intimacy, or a deep fear of rejection. And it's especially common with those who struggle with emotional regulation. Those who have unresolved emotional pain are more likely to exhibit unpredictable behavior in their relationships, leading to the back and forth cycle of closeness and withdrawal. Also, when it comes to being on the receiving end of this crazy making relational dynamic, men and women are equally vulnerable to getting caught up in this emotional push pull cycle. Anyone could fall into the trap. And those of us who have unresolved attachment issues, low self esteem, are drawn to the intensity of the highs and lows that these relationships create. As I started to mention earlier, many of those who enact these crazy making push pull dynamics in relationships are carrying this profoundly deep emotional wounding, much of which originates from the relational dynamics or experiences they had with their parents or caregivers. And these wounds shape attachment issues and they create an emotional instability, which later manifests in terms of how they engage in their adult relationships. And children who grow up with inconsistent or unpredictable caregiving, where their emotional and physical needs are sometimes met but often neglected, are more likely to develop what's called an anxious avoidant attachment. Their caregivers might provide love and attention one moment only to become emotionally unavailable the next. As a result, these children learn that relationships are unreliable, and this instability creates a deep insecurity and fear of abandonment. As adults, they carry this pattern into their relationships. They often have a strong desire for connection, pulling us in with their charm and affection, but then withdrawing and pushing us away when the emotional intimacy feels overwhelming. And this behavior becomes their way of managing their own fears: fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability. Their need for closeness is often overshadowed by the terror that will eventually hurt or abandon them.